This is a time-independent Schrödinger equation. This is the Hamiltonian, which is an operator acting on quantum states in the Hilbert states where the states live. These are a set of functions called eigenfunctions or eigenstates by which the Hilbert space can be spanned for the Hamiltonian. And these are the eigenvalues of these eigenfunctions. When the Hamiltonian acts on each of these eigenstates, we get one of these values. Suppose that we have a system for which we have found the eigenstates and eigenvalues. Let's represent these already known states and values of energy by superscript 0. The question we are going to address in this video is what happens to the eigenstates and eigenvalues if we slightly change the Hamiltonian by adding a term like h1 to the Hamiltonian. Let's call this the unperturbed Hamiltonian, for which we already know the eigenfunctions and the eigenvalues. And this one, the perturbed Hamiltonian, for which we are going to estimate the corresponding eigenfunctions and eigenvalues. This term accounts for the perturbation itself. If lambda goes to 0, the Hamiltonian becomes almost unperturbed. And when lambda goes to 1, h1 affects the Hamiltonian and also the eigenfunctions and values. Pay attention that lambda is a kind of bookkeeping parameter that tracks different orders of correction for the eigenfunctions and eigenvalues we want to find. In other words, lambda is a dial that lets us turn the interaction on slowly, track how the system responds order by order, and then turn the dial fully on. So let's use the perturbed Hamiltonian on the eigenfunctions we wish to estimate. We write En as a sum of different terms. The first term accounts for the unperturbed eigenvalue. The second term is the first order correction or the first order energy shift, and so on. Also for the eigenfunctions, the first term shows the eigenfunction for the unperturbed eigenfunctions of h0. The second term is the first order correction of the new eigenfunctions, and so on. Now, instead of psi n, which is the eigenfunction for the perturbed Hamiltonian, we write this expression that keeps track of different orders of correction we can add to reach a better estimate. Also, instead of En, we use the sum of different orders of correction. Presumably, you can see on the right that the bookkeeping parameter lambda is really important because as we multiply different terms in the two parentheses on the right, different expressions appear for each order as lambda also are multiplied to give rise to higher orders. So let's check the different orders step by step, starting from the first term in which there is no lambda. On the right side of the equation, it corresponds to this term. The first order of lambda on the left has two terms, which corresponds to these two terms on the right. This is the second order on the left, and also the second order on the right. Now you can see how useful the coefficient lambda is to keep track of different orders. So these are the different orders of correction by which we are going to estimate the new eigenfunctions and eigenvalues. To find the zero order, we can multiply both sides of this equation with the eigenbras of the unperturbed Hamiltonian. Let me remind you that eigenbras are the Hermitian adjoints of eigenkets or eigenstates, and they can be calculated by complex conjugating and then transposing the elements of matrix representation of the eigenkets, and we can write them as a row vector instead of a column vector. To find the first order corrections to the eigenkets and eigenvalues, we can use this expression. Let's use the eigenbras we used before on this expression. We do this because the first order energy shift is multiplied by the corresponding unperturbed eigenket, and the multiplication with this eigenbra leaves this quantity. We also know that the Hamiltonian is a Hermitian operator, meaning that its Hermitian adjoint or its complex conjugate transpose is equal to the Hamiltonian itself, and when acting on eigenkets and eigenbras gives the same eigenvalues. So the first expression gives En0 multiplied by this inner product. We have exactly the same term on the right and they cancel out. Also, we already know that this is equal to 1. And this is the expression we have found for En1, which is the first order energy shift. And also this is the expectation value of perturbation h1 in the unperturbed eigenstate. So, the energy to the first order can be calculated using the eigenvalues for the unperturbed system plus the expression we have just found. Now, what about other eigenstates of the unperturbed system? What would happen if we multiplied the other eigenbras other than the one associated with n? Let's do this and use these eigenstates to see what happens. This one disappears because k and n are different, and as these eigenkets are orthonormal, this term goes to 0. Again, we use the Hermiticity of the Hamiltonian, but this time the eigenvalue has the subscript k rather than n. These two terms are the same with different coefficients. In fact, it is the first order correction to the eigenstate we are looking for, multiplied by all unperturbed eigenkets except the one with n, and can be calculated using this expression. Let me remind you that for the unperturbed Hamiltonian, we already know these eigenfunctions and we can use them to expand psi n1. This is how we can expand this ket based on these eigenkets. Let's separate it into two parts. The first part involves n, and the second part includes all the other eigenkets which are shown by subscript k and cannot be n. We also know that this expression can be calculated using the expression above. What about this one, for which k is equal to n? How can we calculate this? To do so, we need to start from this expression. This is the eigenstate we are trying to estimate, and we show the different orders of correction using some bookkeeping coefficient called lambda. The inner product of this eigenket with itself must be 0. Let's do the inner product using the expanded version of the ket, which yields this expression. This must also be 1 because the eigenstates of the unperturbed systems must be orthogonal, and the inner product gives 1. So this expression must be 0. It is just a complex number plus its complex conjugate, and the outcome is 0. But what does it mean? We know that the sum of a complex number with its complex conjugate eliminates the imaginary part. So the real part of this imaginary number must be 0 based on this equation. And we can write it as a purely imaginary number with the real part denoted by b. Let me remind you that we have found this expression when we expanded psi1 based on the unperturbed eigenkets. We substitute it in the expression written above, which gives this equation. Let's factor psi n0 and write the inner product in its pure imaginary form and write the first and second terms like this. To the first order, this is the expansion e to the power of ib lambda. And this is just a phase change which can be assigned by convention. So if we set b to be 0, this complex number is 0, and this term will vanish. The only remaining terms to the first order are these two. So these are the two expressions we have already found that help us find an expression for the first order correction to the eigenstates of the perturbed system. By using the first equation in the second one, we can find the eigenstate to the first order. Pay attention that this is the expression for the first order correction that is added to the unperturbed one. So this is the first order energy shift, and this is the first order correction to the energy eigenstate. Now our next task is to find the second order energy shift and then solve an example to see how we can practically use this expression in practice. As you might have guessed, we should start with this expression, and again we multiply each term by the complex conjugate transpose of the unperturbed states with the same quantum number n. We found this expression to be 0 by the phase convention, and this one to be 1. This term can be simplified into this, and as we have the same term on the right, they cancel out. So the second order energy shift can be measured by this expression. We know the unperturbed states, and also we have calculated the first order correction to the eigenstates. And we can write it in this form, based on just the unperturbed energy states. By multiplying the term into the parentheses, we get this expression. And in the numerator, we have two expectation values, which are two complex numbers and also complex conjugate of each other. So we can write it like this. Finally, we have an expression for the second order energy shift. Now let's use the infinite square well to see how we can apply perturbation and find the energy shifts and also change in the eigenstates. The allowed energy values for this problem are given by this expression, and also we have found the energy eigenstates before on this playlist. We are going to add a delta function bump in the middle of the square well with the area of alpha. The first order energy shift can be measured by this equation. This is a continuous case, so for the inner product, we need an integral from 0 to a, and the perturbation is the delta function under the integral. This function forces x to be equal to a divided by 2, and the result is 2 alpha divided by a times sine of n pi over 2 squared. If n is even, the argument in the sine function is a multiple of pi and the result is 0. But for odd n's, sine is either plus 1 or minus 1 and its square yields 1. So if n is odd, the first correction in the energy is 2 alpha divided by a. Interestingly, by just calculating the wave function in the middle of the well, we can see that for even n's, the eigenfunction is 0, and so we expect it to remain 0 for all the corrections because it will not be affected. But for odd n's, the function gives plus or minus 1 in the middle of the well, and we expect the perturbation to just affect the eigenstates with odd quantum numbers. Next, we are going to find the first order correction to the eigenfunctions using this expression. Let's start with the numerator. This time we have two different quantum numbers k and n. The delta function forces the integral to be this value. For the denominator, we can use the expression on the left for the unperturbed energy values and get this expression that involves n squared and k squared. And finally, using all these expressions, this is the expression we have found for the first order correction of the eigenstates. This function is 0 for even n's and also when k is even. So it is only non-zero when both k and n are odd. Let's use it to find the eigenstates for when n is equal to 1. If n is equal to 1, n squared in the denominator becomes 1, and the possible values for k are all the odd numbers except 1. Also, pay attention that the sine function that involves x is in the sum. Also, sine of pi divided by 2 is 1. Let's first find this expression for some of the first terms of this series. When k equals 3, the sine function yields minus 1 and the denominator is minus 8. We can do the same thing for the next two terms and you can see a pattern. The denominator is always negative, but the numerator is either 1 or minus 1. So this is the expression for the first order eigenstate correction with quantum number 1. Our last step is finding the second order energy shifts. To find the numerator, we need to calculate this integral, which gives this value. Pay attention that both k and n must be odd for this value to be non-zero. For odd numbers, it is either plus or minus 2 alpha divided by a. So this square is the same and we are left with a series to calculate. For even values of n, the second order shift in energy is 0 as we expected, and for odd values of n, it is given by this series. Let's see how we can more easily find this series. This expression can be simplified into this, and this is the proof. Let's find this expression for when n is 1. The only possible values of k are odd numbers except 1, and in the denominator, we have k plus 1 and k minus 1. In the parentheses, we have some positive and some negative values. You can see that they all cancel out except this minus half, and this is the result. The next possible second order correction is for n equals 3. Again, we have a series of positive and negative fractions. Some of them are positive and some of them are negative, and they all cancel out but this one. So this is the result. In general, for each n, which is obviously odd, the only term that remains in the series is minus 1 divided by 2n, and when multiplied by 1 divided by 2n gives minus 1 divided by 4n squared. And this is the general term based on n for this expression.